What is good, everybody? This is your boy Phil with the Say What You Like Sports Podcast, about to get into episode 3 out of 8, where we're going division by division, breaking down each team, projecting where they're going to finish, and just talking a little bit about what to look out for in the 2018 NFL season. So we started by going up north in the AFC, then we took a ride down south. Now we're about to head east to the AFC East and start talking about a little bit of these previews and predictions. Projecting to finish in 4th place, we have the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Buffalo Bills are another playoff team in the AFC that I'm projecting to finish 4th in their division after making the playoffs last season. And after last episode, them Titan fans were giving me a whole hell of a lot of slack for my predictions, saying I didn't know the team, and chances are I don't know the team as good as a hardcore Titans fan would, but at the same time, I see more of the same here. I see too many steps backwards while other teams in this division are taking steps forward, and I just don't see how either the Titans or the Buffalo Bills could finish better than 3rd this season. But I got to go with my gut, and I got to say these teams both finish 4th. That's why I'm projecting these teams 4th. Now, I'll start with some positives. I really respect head coach Sean McDermott. I think he's a hell of a coach. I think he deserves a whole hell of a lot of props for coaching this team into the playoffs last season. In the AFC East, a team with, you know who, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and them New England Patriots. To do that is a feat in itself. I mean, I've always liked McDermott. I think he can properly utilize talent on the defense. I think he runs that zone blitz scheme that he did back in the days with Philadelphia as the defensive coordinator. Learned from his mentor, Jim Johnson, up there. So McDermott can do his thing. The problems with this team, for the most part, are on offense. I mean, look, here's another thing that this team has in common with the Titans. The team has a new offensive coordinator for the 5th straight year. Now they brought the Alabama offensive coordinator, took him from your boy, Nick Saban, and plugged him in. Another thing, the inconsistency at quarterback. I don't understand why this team never believed in Tyrod Taylor. When I see Tyrod Taylor, the first thing I see is he's efficient, he limits his turnovers, he's athletic, and above all else, he wins games, people. I don't understand why the Buffalo Bills organization has been so down on Tyrod these last couple of years when all he does is win games and he's been nothing but consistent for you. And that's why these Bills just aren't going to find consistency, because they let a player like Tyrod walk. They want better. So what do? They trade up in the draft and they get the big-armed QB out of Wyoming, Josh Allen. They draft him 7th overall. And you're going to hear all the experts talk about his accuracy issues. You're going to hear them talk about how he's coming out of the Mountain West Conference and he can't get the job done. You're going to hear Jalen Ramsey talk his smack and say he's straight garbage, but I won't go that far. I'll hold my judgments, my opinions, till I see the kid play in the league. However, I can say that I've seen enough of Nathan Peterman to say the kid looks like garbage to me. Now, A.J. McCarron is another quarterback they got on that roster, and I think, for the most part, you could say he's a nice backup. Now, at the running back position, you have one of the best running backs in this day and age, Shady McCoy. I mean, this guy just continues to be one of the best running backs in the league year in and year out, but he is approaching 30 years of age, and that sometimes is where the drop-off comes for some of these running backs. Now, you add that up with kind of all the off-field distractions, the TMZ stuff I don't want to get too much into, but you never know when Roger Goodell could come out with that axe and put a boy like Shady McCoy on that chopping block. Who knows how long Shady McCoy will continue to play in this league. It's just another question mark. I'm not saying that Shady McCoy isn't a Pro Bowl running back, because he is. He's proved it. He's consistently great. But he's got some issues that they got to work through, and you got to keep tabs on that. Now, at the wide receiver position, the team traded for Calvin Benjamin, getting him from Carolina. And the detractors are going to say he's got a history of being overweight. You talk to Cam Newton, he's going to say he has a history of running his mouth. You guys all seen that. I thought that was funny. But you know what? All eyes are going to be on Calvin Benjamin this year, so he's going to need to step it up for this team to have some success. Now, on the O-line, another concern. They lose 3 starters from a year ago. They traded Cordy Glenn in the middle of last season, and then they lose Eric Woods and your boy, Richie Incognito, to retirement. Now, I think we need to talk a little bit about this defense, which is more of the strength of this team. Again, Sean McDermott, coming from that school of Jim Johnson over in Philadelphia. This is the strength. Now, this team did struggle a lot against the run last season, but they added defensive tackle from the Panthers, Star Lotulelei, to pair with Kyle Williams inside. But I still have to question the defensive ends on the line and the depth behind those two. At linebacker, they drafted inside linebacker Tremaine Williams, 16th overall out of Virginia Tech. And I think McDermott can properly utilize a versatile linebacker like Edmonds in his scheme. So I think that should be a good go. I think that should be a good pick for the team. The defensive backs, the coaching staff I know is very high on the second-year cornerback Tre'Davious White. They signed up Vontae Davis to pair with the up-and-coming White. So I think they're going to be A-okay at the cornerback spots, at least as starters go. The safeties, they seem to always be around the ball. I like Micah Hyde. I like Jordan Poyer. They know how to make plays, man. They know how to make plays. So I think this team does have a pretty dynamic, I'll call them dynamic, defensive backfield. But I just don't think this backfield, this defensive backfield and this defense can overcome for the front seven issues and just the questionable quarterbacks that they have on the roster. Too many question marks for me. I'll be surprised if this team wins 7 games. I penciled them in to win about 4 to 5 games this season. On to my next projection. In third place, I'm picking the New York Jets. Now, I kept going back and forth between who was going to finish second and third in this AFC East. But since I'm not too sure who's going to be the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season, I'm going to have to put the Jets third. But I can see them finishing second. Make no mistake, I'm surprisingly high on this team. I mean, I'm very high on head coach Todd Bowles. I think he's disciplined. I think he's a no-nonsense type of head coach that's just vastly underrated, and I think he can help this team to overachieve. Now, when we're talking about the quarterbacks, they drafted their man in the draft, Sam Darnold, the young quarterback out of USC. And look, I watched this kid play on Saturdays here in Southern California. He's got all the tools. He can make all the throws. He had a little trouble with turnovers last season, but look, if he has some time to work those things out and they put a good squad around him, this guy has the potential to be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. You also got Josh McCown, the veteran game manager there. And then you got the wild card, Teddy Bridgewater. Who knows? Teddy Bridgewater could go from being the starter or he can go from being cut. He's the real wild card at that position. Isaiah Crowell comes over from Cleveland at the running back spot. He's just a strong runner, breaks a lot of tackles, but he never really could truly break out in Cleveland. So here's to hoping that a change of scenery helps a player like Crowell, because I've seen him run. He's got the talent. At wide receiver, they signed up Terrell Pryor, 6'4", 4.4 speed, second coming of Randy Moss, but he just hasn't put it together at that wide receiver spot yet. Maybe he's still too used to playing quarterback from his days in college at Ohio State or something, but it's a make or break season at wide receiver for Terrell Pryor for sure. Jermaine Kearse is another underrated wide receiver they got on the squad. I think he's got good hands. He runs good routes. He's just not super flashy, but I think he's somebody to look out for. He's somebody that can be depended on. On the defensive side of the ball, man, they lost Muhammad Wilkerson, who was one of the best D linemen in the league the last few years, but they got tired of his attitude. So Leonard Williams, the 2015 first-round pick out of USC, he really needs to step it up and become a leader on that defensive line. Now, the defensive backfields, the cornerbacks, they can be the real strength of this team. I mean, they signed Tremaine Johnson over from the Rams. They get a top-notch playmaker at the cornerback spot. Pair him with Mo Claiborne, who they picked up a couple of years ago from the Cowboys. His big thing is he's very talented, but often injured. So as long as they have their health, I think this is going to be one of the top cornerback duos in the league. 2017 first-round pick, strong safety Jamal Adams. He's one of the best young safeties in the league. So this defensive backfield should allow for a coach like Todd Bowles to dial up those blitzes like he likes to do and play the kind of defense which is applying pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. Hopefully the defensive backs help for him to really implement his scheme and maybe even just sneak this team into the playoffs. And now my projection for second place, the Miami Dolphins. Now the Dolphins finished 6-10 last year, and this team's all about the combination of Tannehill and Gase. I think this is their last ride. I think if they don't get it done and sneak into the playoffs, it could be the end for both of these two in Miami. Now Tannehill surprisingly has snuck up on all of us. He's 30 years old. He's also 37-40 as a starter. I had no idea he's been around that long and played that many games. He really, really snuck up on me. Now they got Brock Osweiler as the backup. Now Tannehill's going to have a nice running game to lean on behind Kenyon Drake, who led the league in the final 5 games of the season last year with 444 yards. So he was coming on late. They also signed up Frank Gore to back him up. And Frank Gore, man, he's still a ageless wonder. He's only 75 yards away from being 4th all time as far as the rushing leaders go in the NFL. So props to Frank Gore for having just a hell of a career. He is right on the heels of Curtis Martin. Wide receivers, they lost Jarvis Landry. That's going to be a big loss. But they still have Kenny Stills. And they signed the former Patriots receiver, Danny Amendola. So as long as they can get on the same page, I think this Miami team is still talented. And look, there's no more Jay Cutler. There's no more the careless. We've all heard it about Jay Cutler. Who cares, Cutler? And Tannehill's their man. And like I said, it's make or break. So whether you don't believe or you do believe, it's up to Gase and Tannehill to get this scheme going on and get this offense going and win some games. Now, on the other side of the ball, they released Ndamukong Suh. That saves $17 million of cap space. And they do sign Robert Quinn, the defensive end off the Rams. He has 62.5 career sacks. Pair him with the other DE, Cameron Wake, who has 92 career sacks. That's a whole hell of a lot of sacks between these two defensive ends. So that's going to be nice. And they also have drafted a young defensive end out of the first round the year before, Charles Harris. So I think the Miami Dolphins are feeling good at the defensive end spot. So somebody to get after the quarterback, especially when you're playing in a division with Tom Brady. They drafted Minkah Fitzpatrick, the safety out of Alabama, to help with the defensive backfield. I liked Minkah a lot. My Cowboys have been wanting a safety, and they were pretty high on Minkah, as I know. So hopefully Minkah can help to turn that defensive backfield around and tidy up those leaks. And if Gase and Tannehill do their thing finally, stay healthy, get their scheme going, this team is probably the favorite to finish in second place behind none other than the first place New England Patriots. Now the Patriots, they finished 13-3 last season. They do what they do. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, they finish first in this division every year. Basically a lock to be in at least the AFC Championship game, if not the Super Bowl. And I think it's no different this year. I think they're going to win this division. Now, I know a lot of the offseason talk is about just how fractured the New England Patriots are slowly becoming. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady's beef over Belichick wanting to keep Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster and gearing him towards being the starter. Tom Brady took exception to that. Went over to Bob Kraft. Bob Kraft overruled. And there you have the fracture. The other stuff with the trainers. All the drama that happens in New England. But it's not enough because the talent is there. These guys have worked with each other for just way too long. It's crumbling slowly, but it's far from falling apart. The Patriots are still the Patriots, and they're the heavy favorite to win the AFC East, in my opinion. They bring back the offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, after he was flirting with the head coaching job over in Indianapolis. So Tom Brady has lost a few weapons. He lost one of his favorite wide receivers in Danny Amendola. Martellus Bennett is no longer there. And then on defense, they lose Malcolm Jenkins. But I think the biggest loss is losing offensive tackle Nate Solder. Now, New England wasn't really going to worry about losing a player like Solder, but they also lost their first-round pick, Isaiah Wynn, at the other tackle spot. So now they have 2 question marks at the tackle position. And when you have a 41-year-old quarterback, it's just a little bit of concern. Now, I never doubt Tom Brady. I never doubt Bill Belichick, but there's room for concern. There's blood in the water. The fish is far from dead, but there's blood in the water, especially at that tackle spot. Now, they also lost Dion Lewis. Again, he's a versatile back, but these Patriots know what they're doing. They know when to let go of a player, and they know when they have somebody to replace them. They churn through running backs. It seems like one always steps up. I'm sure one of these no-name running backs on the roster is going to step up and win some games for the Patriots next year. That's just what the Patriots do. Now, on the defensive side of the ball is where the biggest adjustments are going to have to be made for the 2018 New England Patriots. However, I think it should be just another quick adjustment on defense. Matt Patricia, the former defensive coordinator, left to Detroit to take over their head coaching position. But make no mistake, it's a quick fix because this defense has always been and always will be Bill Belichick's defense. I understand Patricia, controls the meetings during the week, calls the defensive plays, but make no mistake, Bill Belichick can overrule him at any time, and when he wants the defense ran his way, and when he wants to change the play call, he can. This is Bill Belichick's defense. And it's funny because a lot of the analysts on TV, some of them are even questioning how great Bill Belichick is on defense to this day, saying he's out of his heyday, he's out of his prime, he's no longer that great defensive mind that he was when he was the D coordinator for the New York Giants or even the New England Patriots back in the days under Parcells. But this guy just got this team to a Super Bowl when the defense was riddled with injuries. I mean, Dante Hightower, who they're going to get back this year, that's a good sign. He went down early last season, and this team was still in the Super Bowl. So, like I mentioned, Bill Belichick will right the ship. I have all the confidence in the world in Bill. And he added a little bit to this defense over the offseason. They signed Adrian Claiborne, the defensive end from Atlanta, who just had a monster game against my Cowboys. And Chaz Green, lit them up. So, maybe Claiborne can find some consistency with this New England defense because that's the only thing he hasn't had. Claiborne has always flashed here and there, but he just hasn't been consistent. And that wouldn't be the first time that the New England Patriots help a player that flashes to find some consistency. In the defensive backfield, you always got the old reliable Devin McCourty back there. So they have the players on defense. And even when some of these players go down, these no names step up. But it'll be nice to see some of those big names step up for this defense. And like I said, there's no reason to doubt the Patriot way, even with all the fractures, even with whatever lingering beef there is between Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Bob Kraft over Alex Guerrero and Gronkowski's health, all the question marks, somehow, some way, the Patriots find a way to do their job. And at the very least, the New England Patriots lock up the AFC East division one more year.